it's so rare where you submit an audition tape and you're like, I feel so good about this, and you're like, you just feel like it's meant for you, and that's how I kind of felt with Kwon. So I sent in the tape and they loved it. They got back to me pretty quickly, and I was supposed to meet the creators, John, Josh, and Hayden, on Zoom for our callback. They actually told me that they felt like I seemed to, they were a little bit worried if I was like, they told me this after the fact, but they were a little bit worried if I could be mean enough for the character because in my slate, which is pretty much you just like introduce yourself, you say your name and you say your height and all that stuff. I was just nerding out and telling them how big of a fan I am of the show. I've been watching it since the YouTube Red days. And then I think they saw that first and then my tape. So they just saw this like super bubbly kid. And then that same kid tried to be mean. Like I think it was hard for them to see. So they gave me some feedback to, crank it up a notch. And they told me to think Karate Kid 2, kind of a wink wink to Chosen. And so I just remember Chosen having that kind of undeniable, like he knows he's the baddest mother effer in the room kind of energy. So I just tried to channel that as much as I could, and they loved it. But turned out that the strikes were happening. The writer strike and the actor
Yeah.
strike were happening. So for about 8 months, I didn't know if I booked the role or not. I just knew that I was in consideration for it. So from April of 2023 all the way until January of 2024, then I found out I booked the role a week before we were shooting episode 3 in part 1.
Wow.
So it was a whirlwind of emotions. But it was like when I finally did get the call, I was ecstatic. Like it was surreal, man.
And when you want to find your voice in the character because you're playing this new type of villain that they're going to end it off with, like, how did you find the voice of Quan, like the mannerisms, the sarcasm? Like, how did you maybe implement that into this character to bring it to life like that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot that went into it, but it all starts from what's on the page, and that's where the creators and writers of the show write these characters so well. And so what was also really cool was this being like my first professional acting role, I kind of understood what I would always like watch interviews of actors and they would say, oh, the character, they would discover the character when they're on set, when they're in wardrobe, when they have the hair. And I finally feel like I understood that because the moment that they put me in the hair, the spiky hair and all that stuff, and then also seeing the choreography of the fights, like all of this collaboration from these different departments gave me so much more clarification on who this guy was. A big thing in the voice beforehand was I was really trying to study Korean accents because I'm obviously Korean American and I speak perfect English. People are very confused when they meet me in person sometimes. Um, both my parents are from Seoul, Korea, and so I would have them read each line and I would record it and I would just listen to it over and over again. And their English is very good, but they have a very subtle accent. So I would just hear what they struggled with. A lot of times they would add extra syllables to things. There's certain letters that's hard for them to pronounce. So I would try to crank that up a tiny bit. And it was just weird like middle ground of I knew how to do Korean accents, but more of in a comical way to like make fun of the accent. But I knew this character needed to be like serious. He wasn't supposed to come off as like a comedic relief. So I wanted to make sure it felt natural, but it was still obvious enough. So it was this weird middle ground to find. But throughout the show, I felt more and more comfortable with it. I think because I felt a lot more comfortable with the character as we kept shooting.